In this video, we will walk through the administrative console for Jamf's cloud-delivered security services. As you know, there are 3 security services that are delivered through the Jamf Security Cloud. Jamf Private Access, our Zero Trust Network Access solution, which is a modern remote access tool that connects workers to essential business applications. Jamf Threat Defense, a leading mobile threat defense or MTD solution that protects mobile workers. And Jamf Data Policy, our globally distributed cloud-hosted gateway that is designed to help organizations manage the risks that accompany hybrid work. Let's log into the console. This short video will provide a basic refresher on these services and orient you to the cloud-hosted administrative environment. On the left side, we have an easy-to-navigate menu area that is populated according to the services active on the account. Starting at the top, the default view for new admins is the dashboard, which presents a real-time snapshot on the status of your protected workforce. The dashboard contains essential data points for each of the core services. Here we have the following. In the top row, a summary of critical statistics related to Jamf Private Access. As a reminder, Jamf Private Access is a modern remote access solution or VPN replacement. The dashboard data includes the number of remote access requests made during the time period, the number of users connecting over the infrastructure, and a heat map that shows when users are most active. In the next row of our dashboard, we see critical mobile security data points. Jamf Threat Defense is a leading MTD solution that includes security capabilities on the device and in the network. The dashboard shows our organization's security health rating, a summary of device-level risk ratings, and an interactive threat view that shows how our risk posture has evolved over the time period. Here we can see both secured threats, low, medium, and high severity threats over a time period. The third row of our dashboard, we have top details related to data management. This includes the top sites visited by our users, details on our top roaming devices, and the countries to which they have traveled and total usage counts on mobile data associated with those devices. Finally, at the bottom of our dashboard, we've got details on the devices that are enrolled into the service. Here you can see that Jamf supports a mix of all modern operating systems from iOS and Android to Mac OS and Windows. Additional activation stats are here for those that are managing a deployment process. Back to our side menu, the next 3 items are a collection of reports that are related specifically to use cases. The first use case is going to be access. Within access, we see details on all of the applications that authorized employees can have access to. Our powerful filter allows us to isolate specific accessing devices or accessed applications. Here we see all of those modern operating systems supported by Jamf Private Access, as well as SaaS and enterprise apps that are either in the cloud or on-premise. And we can isolate by both those connections that are allowed or denied. Let's hide the filter for now. The main view shows us the daily usage overview for all of our applications, along with a full breakdown of the individual applications to which users are connecting. We can see details for each individual application that include the type of application it is, the category, the number of allowed and denied connections, as well as a detailed breakdown on the individual users that connected to that specific application. The event log over here allows us to see a timeline of access-related events and is available if we need to initiate further investigation. The next use case for us in our side menu is going to be security. Security has a number of different workflows, and the first is going to be the threat view. Threat view is really intended to provide a look at all of the threats that we've identified in the environment, sorted by risk severity, so an administrator can easily understand how and if a specific type of threat is impacting the mobile fleet. Here we use a traffic light color coding scheme that allows administrators to drill into risks by priority. Event color codes in green indicate where policy controls prevented specific threats from impacting users. Let's go down and look at a specific threat so we can get an example on the details that are available beneath the category. In this specific example here, we see a Microsoft 365 phishing attack that targeted a specific user, likely via SMS or some other mobile attack vector. And we can tell because of the green indication that this one was successfully blocked. We also support a view called Device View. This is where IT staff would go really to zero in on all of the risks impacting a specific device or a user. Again, we see the high, medium, and low risk labels that are used to help triage any issues that might be impacted. We can close menus so that we can really focus on the particular threats that are being activated and investigated. And here we do have the ability to look at not just a specific threat type, but also just the general security hygiene of that device. The final area that we'll look at is App Insights. App Insights is going to be the best tool for assessing app-based risk. This is where an administrator would go to look into all of the apps that are installed on the mobile fleet, get information on the developers that created those applications, the permissions they requested, and the websites that their applications are communicating with. Here we can scroll down, see the top apps that have been installed in the last 7 days, look at apps by category, drill in by risk level. If we look down further, we can see a list of all of the applications, and this is fully clickable so that we can go in and get additional details. This particular application here is indicated as having a medium risk score. We can go in and investigate that, and we see here that one specific version of this app has been identified as being vulnerable, and it's installed on 4 devices. We can go into this particular version of the app and go and get additional details on the app, the devices on which it's installed, and an explanation for that medium risk score so we can make a decision on whether additional action is going to be needed to be pursued by our team to remediate that particular threat in the environment. Moving back to our side menu, we're going to go ahead and close down the security area and go into our next area of reports, which is going to be around acceptable use. Reports in this area are generally designed to understand the content that's being accessed by mobile users. We can go in and get detailed insights into which categories of content they are accessing. Here we can see as we go into the categories-based report, we can look at all of the access requests that have originated from protected devices over the time period, specifically by a content category. We can go into individual content categories and see the specific applications that drove that particular usage, the amount of data that was consumed. We can even go in further and get details on the apps that were involved, and if anonymization is not active on the account, we can see user details as well. Within this same service, we provide details on policy-based blocks. So if a policy action is triggered, we can go in and get reports on what those policy actions are, how often they're occurring, which users are involved, etc. And we've finally have a report that we call GDPR and Compliance, which is an executive-style report that is designed to assist with compliance reporting to key stakeholders and the legal team. You can see highly action-oriented. This can be downloaded as a PDF document and really built into a number of different automations so that you can get this report to a legal team in a timely fashion on a regular basis. Up next is going to be data management in our use case menu tree. This is a section where we really have details on data usage by protected devices. This is really a series of reports that are intended for corporate-owned, corporate-managed devices where we can go in and help admins get a better understanding of how mobile data connections are being utilized across the fleet. Here we see some reports that are sheerly oriented around data volumes. We can go in and see individual users. Sometimes if anonymization is turned on, those usernames are masked. Where anonymization is not turned on, we do get user details. We get information that helps us understand that particular user's environment, the device that they're utilizing, and then the specific applications that contributed to their overall usage. If you're interested in more of a sites or applications oriented view of the data, we can go in and pivot on that particular data point. Our Sites and Apps report is available to highlight which apps and websites are being accessed. And we can also do a specific breakdown on whether this access is business or personal based on filters that can be applied by the admin to configure those particular sites. Additional reports are available for roaming, when data caps are implemented. Those are policy controls when users hit up against thresholds, as well as detailed reports on when the tethering interface is activated on a mobile device. Outside of our use cases, we have additional controls within the service that allow us to manage devices. If we go into this section, we have both reports about the devices that are onboarded into the service. Here we have a summary page that gives us a bird's eye view on all of the devices that have been activated within the account, the last time they touched base with the service, which ones have notifications turned on or off so that you know which users you can communicate with through the service. And then a number of other troubleshooting details are available here in this particular report. We also have a list-based view, which allows you to go in and look at the groups that you have configured within the account, the devices that fall within those groups, and all of the details that are associated with individual devices here. This allows you to get really a very quick snapshot of users, their current risk assessments, the last time they checked in, etc. If you're making use of integrations with device management solutions like Jamf Pro, this section is going to mirror the selected devices in your MDM or UEM. That way you don't have to replicate the management of devices within the Wandera service. We can simply pull that data in from your mobile device management solution and utilize those same groups and device configurations here in the service. The final section we'll cover here is going to be policy. Like above, the policy section is going to be organized by use case. We'll go in first to the access policy. This is related to the private access service, which is about connecting workers to business applications. Here you can configure which users have access to sensitive business applications, how their connections are routed across Jamf's global infrastructure, and most importantly, the parameters of the real-time risk policies that are associated with your access rules. Lots of configuration controls here, and ultimately all of this is aimed at ensuring that only your authorized users are allowed to access your sensitive business applications, but also that they're getting very performant, very fast connections over that global infrastructure, and that those routes follow the rules that your business has defined for how users should be connecting ultimately to those critical productivity tools. The next policy control that we'll take a look at is our security policy. This is related to our MTD solution, the Mobile Threat Defense Service, Jamf Threat Defense. The security policy section includes all of the options that you need to notify users when they encounter a threat, block threats, as well as secure traffic when certain threat types are encountered. You can see here that within the service, we can filter the policy controls, whether it's mobile or laptop. We can go in and adjust the severity scores for each of the threat categories that we are able to identify. We can configure alerts, not just for users, but admins as well. And we can go in and configure a number of different policy responses that allow us to deal with particular incidents as they occur. In this first policy control line here under web content, just as an example, when a phishing threat is encountered, we have the option of triggering an auto response to simply block the user from reaching that phishing attack, ensuring that both the user and the organization are protected from that type of risk being encountered. The next policy area that we will go into is block policy. These are where we're going to utilize those content categories that we talked about earlier to build rules around acceptable use. This is where we're going to be able to specify the type of content that users should access, content categories like adult, extreme, gaming content. This is where we'll be able to specify policies that can be fine-tuned not just by content category, but by network interface. We can actually specify different policies across domestic cellular versus roaming cellular, so we can do acceptable use versus those policies that might be more cost-oriented, as well as policy controls that are over Wi-Fi. really allowing us to have a different configuration on each of our network interfaces, ensuring that we can fine-tune this right down to a specific category and type of content on a network interface. One of the really powerful controls that we have in this section is the use of groups. These are really another one of the handy tools that we have available to fine-tune how policy is going to be applied across the fleet. We can go in here and ensure that a specific division of your organization has one set of policies that might be different from those in another group. So quite powerful to ensure that this is tuned just perfectly for your organization. The last policy control that we will look at is going to be data policy. This is where we're really talking about the bytes and megabytes that are in use by your workers over their cellular connections. This is where we can configure different data thresholds for both domestic as well as roaming connections. You can see here that we have different thresholds that are available to us. We also can control what happens when those thresholds are met. We can either cap the usage, meaning we stop all further connections beyond that threshold, or we can allow those connections out and simply use notifications to manage how the user accesses content beyond that point. Within this same page, we can go in and configure allow lists and certain types of exceptions so that we can really manage what happens to a user when they are in different network settings. We see a lot of customers that utilize this roaming tab extensively so that they can be quite restrictive when their workers are in a high cost territory and be a bit more lenient when they are using a domestic or a local calling plan that is available to them. For those that might want to customize the notifications that are used when various policy actions are taken, say blocking a phishing event or telling a user that they're being capped because they've hit up against their data threshold, we have a number of different templates that are available. The notifications that are sent by the Jamf service span both native notifications, those that would appear in the peek down menu on a mobile device, as well as those that can be sent via SMS or in the browser. Just to give you an idea of what some of these notifications would look like, those that are in browser templates can be highly configured and you can actually view them within the console. You can upload an image, say your company logo, put that onto the block page and configure all of the text, including the page title, so that your users can be confident that the message they're receiving is being communicated from your IT organization and have confidence in the policy actions that are being taken. There are a number of integrations that we won't go into detail during this video. I've already mentioned the UEM integrations that are available for organizations that want to plug into device management solutions. There are a number of different real-time streams and APIs that are available to both pull data out of the service as well as to configure the service from an external tool like a SIM, a SOAR, or an EDR platform. We do have the ability to also connect with identity providers such as Microsoft Azure Active Directory or Okta. Those are going to be critical components to enable the private access service and allow users to easily onboard into the solution. As you can see, the Jamf Security Cloud really includes a suite of real-time services that deliver both rich insights as well as fine-grained policy controls that are intended to help your organization better manage risk in the hybrid workplace. Please contact your account representatives for more details or if you have additional questions on the service. Thank you for tuning in for today's video.